Well, the other big story in the past day also was a merger proposal between Seven West Media and the radio operator Southern Cross Austereo. The deal is worth around $420 million. The problem for some shareholders is that the deal is structured to allow it to go through without a shareholders vote. And that's similar to the way James Hardie took over the US decking company called AZEC. So are shareholders being trodden on here? Where is the ASX in all of this as well? Rachel Waterhouse is the Chief Executive of the Australian Shareholders Association and joins me now. Rachel, always good to chat to you about this. I mean, it's now becoming a bit of a trend that companies are able to push through mergers in this way. It doesn't seem healthy for the democracy or even the say that shareholders, your members, actually get.
Yeah, shareholders own companies, and I think boards need to take greater respect for who's owning the company and how they engage with them when they're considering a merger. In this example here, Seven West shareholders get to have a say, but Southern Cross shareholders don't get to have a say. So how is that fair? And that's really the question for shareholders here, not only with the example you talked about with James Hardie, but here with a media merger where one set of shareholders don't count.
Just one thing about this. What is the law that allows this to happen? Why would the ASX, why would ASIC, or whomever is actually regulating this, why would they allow this to go through without the shareholders' approval? The reason for that is it's not as though the shareholders are universally overwhelmed by this deal. Some say it's great, others say, well, maybe not.
Yeah, it's to do with ASX, and there is a listing rule where it talks about the main undertaking. And so it has been considered in this case that TV is not its main undertaking. So I don't know, like there's legal and there's rules, but what's right is the broader question here.
I tell you, it's funny, isn't it? Because it's broadcasting, you'd have to think would be the key common denominator between these two businesses. Not whether they broadcast via television or radio, but it's broadcasting, I would have imagined. But again, the ASX clearly makes these rules. The problem is there's frustration from some of the shareholders. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, that is key. And it's also important for all shareholders to think that ASIC is doing a review on the ASX this year. So there's an opportunity there for our members and shareholders to get in touch with their views. And it's an opportunity for us to question why these things are happening without engagement. Engagement's really important. And, don't do the bare minimum. Really think about your shareholders. They own the company. They get to decide.
And also, the other thing as well is that Southern Cross Austereo has been through the wars in the past and actually put the shareholders through the ringers with former mergers that haven't come off and deals that haven't worked and the board's been changed, all that type of thing. So it's not as though you'd imagine that they'd be in any position to try and trample over their shareholders' rights.
Yeah, it's all about trust here. Shareholders and the trust in board and management of whatever company it is and the decisions that are being made, they should have an opportunity to engage on these matters. They are really important.
So just very quickly, when you've spoken to the ASX about this, and I'm certain you have, you're Chief Executive of the Australian Shareholders Association, what do they say to you about this when you raise objections to it?
Yeah, it's not only the shareholders here that are raising objections, but many parties, especially around James Hardie. So we will continue to advocate for retail shareholders and fairness. And really, it's important that they own the company and they have a say and they don't get excluded from major decisions that have a future on them, as well as many retirees do rely on these funds.
I'll tell you what, always good to have in the program. Rachel Waterhouse, the Chief Executive of the Australian Shareholders Association. If you don't reckon that's red hot, then I don't know what is. Well,